Ethan Cole adjusted the worn collar of his only dress shirt, the fabric soft from 100 washes, and stared at the towering glass doors of Harrison Tower. The building was a monument to success, piercing the blue sky, and he felt like a pebble trying to roll uphill. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. He squeezed his daughter Lily's small hand. She was 5 with bright eyes that held a wisdom beyond her years. Her dark hair pulled into a slightly lopsided ponytail he'd done himself that morning. "Okay, sweetie, you wait here with Mrs. Davison, okay? Daddy will be right back." He handed her small backpack to the kind-faced receptionist who had agreed to watch her for a few minutes. Lily nodded, clutching her small stuffed rabbit. "Go get him, Daddy." Her tiny voice was a shot of pure courage straight to his heart. The interview was on the 45th floor. The elevator ride was a blur of polished steel and his own pale, nervous reflection. He was ushered into a vast corner office with panoramic views of the city. Behind a sleek minimalist desk sat Arthur Sterling, the billionaire CEO, a man whose face graced the covers of business magazines. Sterling was older than his photos, with sharp, calculating eyes that seemed to assess Ethan's worth in a single, sweeping glance. Across from him sat 2 other executives, their expressions unreadable. The questions came in a rapid-fire barrage. "Your last position was as a mid-level manager at a logistics firm. Why the gap in employment?" Ethan explained, his voice steady despite the dryness in his throat. About the company downsizing, about the subsequent months spent caring for his daughter after his wife passed away, about the childcare costs that ate up his savings. He spoke of his skills, his work ethic, his willingness to learn. He saw Sterling's gaze flicker to his watch. The other executives whispered to each other. The energy in the room was cold, clinical. After precisely 22 minutes, Sterling stood, extending a hand that was more of a dismissal than a greeting. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Cole. We have many other candidates to see. We'll be in touch." The words were a tombstone. Ethan knew that tone. He'd heard it a dozen times before. He walked out of the office, the plush carpet silencing his footsteps, feeling the weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders. He had failed Lily. He couldn't afford the rent on their small apartment for another month. His dream of giving her a stable, happy life felt like a cruel joke. He took the elevator down, the silence broken only by the soft hum of machinery, a sound like the quiet weeping of his own spirit. He stepped into the gleaming marble lobby, his eyes already searching for the small figure of his daughter. There she was, sitting on a bench, deeply engrossed in drawing, something in a small notebook, with Mrs. Davison. As he walked towards them, he saw a janitor, an older man with a weathered face, struggling to push a heavy mop bucket across the slick floor. A young executive, rushing by with a phone pressed to his ear, bumped into the bucket, sending a wave of grey, soapy water cascading across the floor. The executive just kept walking, oblivious. The janitor sighed, a deep, weary sound, and reached for a rag. Ethan didn't think. He walked over, knelt on the wet floor, and began using his own handkerchief to sop up the water. "Here, let me give you a hand," he said to the startled janitor. The man looked at him surprised. "Sir, you don't have to do that. You'll get your nice clothes dirty." Ethan just shook his head with a small, genuine smile. "It's just water. And clothes are just clothes." For the next few minutes, they worked together, Ethan helping to wring out the rags and push the water towards a drain. The janitor, whose name was Miguel, thanked him profusely, his eyes crinkling with gratitude. "You are a good man," Miguel said. Not many people would stop. Ethan simply shook his hand, his own now wet and red from the cold water, and went to collect Lily. "Daddy, you're all wet," Lily exclaimed, pointing at the large, dark stains on his trousers and the knees of his suit. "I know, Munchkin." Daddy just helped a friend. He took her hand, her small fingers a warm anchor in his cold ones, and they walked out of the building into the bustling city street. They had only gone about 50 yards when he heard it. A voice, breathless and urgent, calling from behind. "Mr. Cole." "Ethan Cole, wait!" He turned, startled to see Arthur Sterling, the billionaire CEO, running towards him, his suit jacket flapping, his perfectly styled hair now disheveled. He was a world away from the composed figure in the corner office. He stopped in front of them, bending over to catch his breath for a second. Ethan instinctively pulled Lily a little closer, his mind racing. Had he done something wrong? Was he being accused of something? Sterling straightened up, his sharp eyes now holding a completely different expression. It wasn't calculation. It was a kind of wonder. He looked from Ethan's surprised face down to his wet trousers, then back up. "I was watching from my window," he said, his voice still slightly out of breath. "I was getting a cup of coffee and I looked down. I saw you walk out of my building. After a grueling interview where I'm sure you felt you were treated unfairly. And the first thing you did was kneel on a dirty floor to help a man you don't know. A janitor. You helped him without a second thought, without anyone watching, without any hope of reward." Ethan just stared, speechless. He hadn't known anyone could see. He hadn't done it to be seen. Sterling continued, his voice thick with an emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. "For the past 20 years, I have interviewed countless candidates. I've seen degrees from the best universities, resumes a mile-long polished presentations. I've hired people for their skills, their ambition, their intelligence, and time and again, they've let me down. They lacked integrity or compassion or simple human decency. Today, I interviewed you for your skills, and I was about to dismiss you. But you just gave me the most important interview of your life, down there on the street. And I was the one who failed. I failed to see the one quality no resume can capture, character." He extended his hand, not the dismissive handshake from before, but one of genuine respect. "The job is yours, Mr. Cole, if you still want it. But not the one you interviewed for. I need a new personal assistant, someone I can trust implicitly. The pay's double what we discussed." And he glanced down at Lily, who was looking up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Our company has an excellent on-site daycare center." Ethan felt a lump the size of a boulder in his throat. He looked down at Lily, who gave him a huge, gap-toothed grin. He looked back at the man who had just offered him not just a job, but a future. He shook Arthur Sterling's hand, his own still slightly damp. "Thank you, sir," he managed to whisper. Sterling smiled, a real smile that softened his entire face. "Don't thank me, Ethan, thank yourself. You reminded me today what true wealth looks like. It starts right here," he said, tapping his chest over his heart. As Ethan walked away, holding his daughter's hand, he felt the warmth of the sun on his face. He hadn't just gotten a job. He had learned that in a world that often measures success by money and power, the smallest acts of kindness can hold the greatest power of all, and that sometimes the best interview you'll ever have isn't the one you planned for, but the one life gives you when you least expect it. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories for more inspiring tales of hope and humanity.